Good morning, everyone. For those of you on the internet, I'm Fern Beck, a longtime member of First Church and chair of the membership committee. We are glad you are with us, whether online, in person, or in this magnificent sanctuary. As always, we give those of you visiting a special welcome. And if you're comfortable, if you can just stand for a moment so we could acknowledge you, any of you that are visiting. So thank you. And if you want to use your names, do. Or we'll tell us at coffee hour. Okay. To learn more about First Church or Unitarian Universalism, please contact Reverend Dr. Stephanie May, myself, or smiling-faced congregants will certainly share with you any of your questions. Coffee hour will be immediately following the service, taking place in the auditorium right outside the sanctuary. Today, we have a few other announcements. The GBIO event on the 15th has been canceled. The membership committee is looking for enthusiasm, creative First Church members to add to our talents and ideas as we build back to meet the challenges of the new post-COVID world in partnership with Reverend Dr. Stephanie May. And whether you're looking for a term on the membership committee or a one-off project, we completely welcome you, your enthusiasm, and your ideas. Thank you again for being here. Let our service begin. Oh, chime. All right.
On an early day in January 1910, a young man named J.C. Hall stepped off a train in Kansas City, Missouri, with 2 shoeboxes of postcards to sell. More than 100 years and billions of cards later, the company he began, Hallmark, has become more than a global company. It's a symbol of heartfelt, if a bit sentimental, expressions of care and concern and love. If you spend much time on the Hallmark Channel, you'll soon find that their movies follow predictable scripts of romantic love. One screenwriter likens it to being a composer under Stalinist rule. Incredible constraints of what you could write and what was expected. While I can enjoy a good rom-com, as perhaps so do you, today I invite us to go beyond the Hallmark expressions of love with their predictable messages and scripts of romance to explore other important relationships of love that enrich our lives and our hearts. From the interspecies love of pets and animals, to the decades-old love of an elderly couple, to the love between friends, loving relationships are sacred gifts that give meaning to our lives. So may this service remind us all of the many ways love is received and given, of the many ways we love and are loved. Let us begin by rising in body or in spirit to say together the words of the First Church Boston affirmation printed in your order of service. As I light the chalice symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you'll take a moment now to greet one another, respecting the cold and flu and everything else going around.
Good morning. And good morning. No, I was like, are you tipping your hand towards Kansas City this afternoon for the game?
Let's win. Our first love will be about animals, and so we thought All Creatures of the Earth and Sky is a great hymn to start with. So please remain standing, or in body or in spirit, as we sing together 203, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky.
Creatures
thank you, and please be seated. That was great. You did great. We're all filled with air now from all the hallelujahs. That's great. I'm Reverend Hank Purse, and it is, I have a story for us to tell. I was sharing the story. I was telling the story to my dog yesterday, or speaking it at him. Anyway, he was very happy. My dog's name is Henry, which I always have to explain that, yes, my dog and I have the same name. He came with the name Henry, and when I said to my daughters, well, we got to change the name, people are going to think that because I only have daughters that I named him Henry as the only other boy in the house. And they said, you told us that you couldn't change a dog's name. And I said, when did I say that? And he said, when we got our cat named Yuma, and you said, we can change the cat's name. It won't come when you call it. It doesn't matter. It's just a cat. It's not like a dog. And I said, that's the only thing you remember from the lessons I've taught you. And they said, yes, Dad. This is the story. It's a story from the indigenous peoples here in North America. I'll say a bit more about that later on. Long, long, long ago, back before there were dogs even, there were just wolves. And the women in the indigenous nations here in North America noticed the wolves. And they realized that those wolves were a lot like humans. They took care of each other's young. They lived together in family groups. They hunted together. They worked together. And so the women of these different nations, of these small family tribes, they would take a wolf pup, and they'd keep it, and they'd feed it. And after generations of taking other pups, eventually there became dogs. And the dogs would do what dogs do. They keep your feet warm at night. They hunt with us. They protect us. And one day, the women realized they needed to lay down, they needed to have a conversation with their dogs. So they called all the dogs together, and they said, we just have one rule that we want to share to you. And the dogs just sat there listening. They said, the one rule is for you to remember that you are not humans. We are two-legged humans, and you are four-legged humans. Don't think that you are us. Be dogs. You are good at being dogs. Now, this thought had never occurred to the dogs before. They listened and they nodded and they went away. But later on, the dogs got together and they had never really thought that they were four-legged people. But they said, who would want to be one of those two-legged people anyway? And another dog said, yeah, you're right. We are much more stable on slippery surfaces than they are. And someone else said, yeah, they can't hear what we can hear. Their sense of smell, nothing compared to ours. You are so right. You know what? I think we're actually sort of superior to those two-legged people. And then one small dog said, in a very small dog voice, said, but they can dance. And all the dogs said, what? Wait, what was that? And they all turned around to that small dog, and the small dog said, they can dance and they can sing, and those are things that we can't do. And all the dogs got, the rule, but they all start barking at him, you know the rule. We don't do the things that they can do. And they all left, and they went back to their own long houses. But once that seed was planted in their heads, those dogs started to think, why can't we dance? Why can't we sing? And so later on in another meeting of the dogs, I guess they would have these meetings every once in a while. At one of these meetings of the dogs, a big dog said, ever since that small dog mentioned it, all I've been doing is thinking of dancing. I think even in my dreams, I imagine dancing. I think my paws move. I think the two-legged people can see my paws move when I sleep because I'm dreaming of dancing and singing. And they said, well, I've been thinking about it too. And they agreed, all these dogs agreed that they too had been thinking about dancing and singing. And then one of the dogs ran off and came running back, and he had in his mouth a stick that he'd taken from the fire. And the other dogs saw that this one dog had stolen some of the sacred human fire, and they gathered around sticks into a big pile, and they threw the lit stick on there, and soon there was a big bonfire. And they all waited to see who would do first, who was going to break the rule. And finally one dog said, I will do it. And he walked over to a tree, and he pushed himself up, and he was on his two legs. He said, look at me. Oh, and he fell back down. Then another dog said, well, we're going to try this too. And soon they were all trying it, and they were all walking on their two legs, and they were swaying. And so one dog said, this is great. Oh, I'm singing. And they're singing, and they're dancing. And then one dog said, stop, you look foolish. Humans don't have tails. Our tails are dragging in the ground. And then another dog who was still dancing still said, well, let's take our tails off, and just snapped his tail off and threw it in the ground. And all the other dogs saw that, and they threw their tails on the ground as well. And they're dancing and singing, and they're making so much noise that they woke the humans, they woke the people in the village who came creeping through the woods. And they would have kept dancing until they heard one of the women's voices say, dogs, what are you doing? With that, all the dogs stopped, and they dropped to the ground, and they started to rush out. And as they started to rush out, somebody went, our tails! And they went running back, and they went back, and they just grabbed the first tail they could, and they ran away. And that is why dogs, whenever dogs meet each other, they sniff each other's tail to see who has the original tail. Because no one got this right tail. Now, the thing about this story is, the first thing is that it's a universal story. So, as I said, it came from the indigenous people, the native people here in North America, but not from one tribe. It is a story that appears in many different tribe stories. Not that there was one story then that went out to all these different tribes, but that it's sort of a universal experience. That it was the women of the community who noticed the wolves and took in the pups and put them to work. Years ago, that work would have been hunting or hauling. Today, the work that our dogs do is of more often support, service. The second thing this story does is it explains why dogs sniff each other's tails. It's one of those stories that you hear of, like, how did the Grand Canyon get there? Or why do leopards have spots? This is one of those stories that explains why dogs sniff each other's tails. And the last thing that this story does, it just reminds us of the important role that dogs and pets have in our lives. They provide for us examples of unconditional love. They are our sounding board, perhaps even more than your friends or your spouses or other people in your life. So many times my poor dog Henry has had to listen to me go, did you see what they did? Did you see that? My wife wouldn't put up with that, but the dog is very happy to put up with that. Dogs love us unconditionally. You know, an unconditional love is a love that does not have the word because in it, right? They love us because we provide this. They love us because we are strong, or because we're young, or because this or that. Things that humans often do. But our pets love us unconditionally. They show us loyalty. In a world where people don't necessarily seem loyal, where we have difficulty making friends, when our jobs aren't loyal, when things aren't stable, having a pet who is there, who is happy to see us when we come home. They also live and show us what the benefits of unselfish living can be. it really is such a loving thing. I'm going to close with a small reading that the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto wrote about pets. These are friends. They are our loves. It's kind of a surprise that you should love someone so much who would eat the butter on the table if they could get away with it, and gets endless hair on the sofa when they aren't even supposed to be on the furniture. When they are called companion animals, it's such an open, tender truth. The endless cuddles and tricks and loyalty, the comfort of fingers to fur and big adoring eyes. These are friends. These are loves. They stretch our hearts and fill them with the abundance of kindness. When they are gone, our hearts remain larger. Though their absence leaves room for expanse of grief, their love champions and companions us still. Our pets are wonderful. Our pets teach us. They teach us that even old dogs have new tricks. And now our choir.
I want to take you on a little journey on myself. I wasn't going to do this, but we did it with the choir this morning, and it was such a profoundly wonderful experience. I'm going to teach you about love under the sea, and I want you to feel as if you're underwater, not just underwater like in a swimming pool, but in the deep, green, dark, blue sea. And I want you to inhale and put your hands above your head. Encompass all that space. Feel it above you. Feel it moving above you. Feel that you are just floating in a beautiful sea.
invite you now to swim up to the surface, to the beaches of Florida. When I was in high school and college, I spent several spring breaks with my grandparents at their little condo in Stuart, Florida. As there was just one bedroom, I slept on a blow-up mattress on the three-season porch off their bedroom. The sliding glass door is all that separated us, and it would be cracked open for airflow. I would overhear their nightly ritual of saying goodnight to one another. Their voices were gentle, their kisses unmistakable. Married nearly 50 years at that point, they were still one another's sweethearts. From childhood, I'd heard their story of courtship. Harold picking Betty up in his 1939 green Ford convertible with rumble seat to take her to the dance hall. I knew this because Grandpa still played the same big band tunes as he drove us around, reminiscing about those dances. I also knew that one of the first gifts he ever gave Betty was a gold locket I now own, a picture of each of them tucked inside. Through all my memories of her, that gold locket was always around her neck. Like many couples of their generation, the war in Europe called, and Harold enlisted in the Army. Marrying on August 1st, 1942, they had just 10 days together before he shipped off. For most of the next 3 years, all there would be was letters. During those years apart, Betty lived off her income, saving all the money from his salary to surprise him with a wad of rolled bills when he came home so he could buy his car. Harold was always a car guy. However, they struggled to join the baby boom, eventually adopting 2 children to create the family they longed to have. By the time my brothers and I came on the scene decades later, their modest brick home was lined with the coolest mid-century modern furniture, shelves of bowling league trophies, and a landscaped garden to rival any city in design and care, if not in size. Laughter came easily to them both, and love felt abundant in their presence. I loved my grandparents, and they loved each other. Betty's unrivaled energy had us convinced that she would be the last of our grandparents to die. Unfortunately, she ignored spots on her skin, and the melanoma had progressed too far by the time it was diagnosed and had spread throughout her body. By this time, I was living here in Boston, attending grad school. But when the time came, I flew home to my parents where Betty was in home hospice. Over her last couple days, Harold did not leave her side, holding her hand as the morphine eased her pain, but kept her distant from us. We sang to her, Grandpa's baritone as mellow as ever. And when she finally died, he bowed his head over her and wept. As difficult as this was to witness, I remained humbled by the gift I received from their love for each other. While their love had begun as a heady romantic courtship, their decades since had included significant joy, but also heartbreaks, including struggles with family that were unresolved at the time of their deaths. Theirs is not a story immune from loss or pain, nor were they perfect people. My grandmother could use religion as a cudgel, and my grandfather could be overtly racist. And theirs is a story of love beyond Hallmark cards that can only ever capture fragments of a decades-long narrative of two entwined lives. Since becoming a minister a decade ago, I have had the privilege of bearing witness to other decades-long love between elderly couples. I have sat in living rooms with 90-year-olds as they discuss how they've had conversations about who may die first. And then I've had to meet with the surviving spouse to plan a memorial service for the other. To be invited in as a witness to such sturdy love is a sacred gift. Such stories deserve to be preached as holy scripture for what is possible among some people. This is not to say that all couples should stay together just to grow old together. I, for one, remain confident that my choice to divorce in my 20s was the right one. Also, lauding the gift of a decades-old love is not to say that all couples who stay together remain sweethearts. I have witnessed those stories as well. Even so, on this Valentine's week, bringing to mind those who have found a way to nurture and sustain love for decades throughout life's tumult depicts a significant kind of love. Love is not only for the young, the fit, and the well-heeled, as some Hallmark or Hollywood movies might want you to think. Love, real, deep, affectionate love, can also exist within the decades-old love of an elderly couple, right on through to the last chapter of their life. One way First Church Boston expresses their love for one another is to take a moment once a month in services to bear witness to the joys and sorrows and concerns that we have. So I invite you now, if you wish, to come forward. I'll bring the mic down to our table, and say your name, share your joy or concern, and if you wish, you can add a rock into the water.
Good morning. I'm Lynn, and my father was born on February 14th, 1929, and Valentine's Day was always very special in our house. So I put a rock in the water in the memory of my dad.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I'm putting a rock in here for my brother's wife who passed away this week. Ricky Becker, a brassy Jewish Motor City import to our third generation Eastern European family, will be missed.
Good morning, I'm Janine, and I want to put a rock in the water and a thought and prayer out for Seiji Ozawa, who passed away this week, and he brought so much joy to my life, watching him and my family as well. So thanks for the music, Seiji.
I'm a little vague on the date because they switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, but My mother was born, I think, the day before George Washington, depending on which calendar you look at, so I will give a little tribute to her. I gave a different tribute to her. She was a person who wanted me to read, told me stories, and brought me to the theater. So when I got my inheritance, I endowed a chair at Emerson's College Majestic Theater in her name. I also did a second chair endowed for the name of Gore Vidal, the best man.
Thank you. I'm John, and I drop a stone today to honor the birthday tomorrow of our dog that Lynn and I share, but more importantly, to honor my true love. We've been happily married for over 30 years now, and this kind of enduring love is one of life's wonderful gifts.
I'm going to actually drop 2 stones, and one I hope is okay with her. Yesterday I had a nice, long, lovely visit with Joan Collins, who amongst the many stories she shared were a number of about her and Leo, her husband of many years. So this is for Joan and Leo. And this is for all the sorrows and concerns we all hold going through the life that we do. And I now invite you, as another way to express your love, as you're able to give to our offering that sustains the life and community of this congregation. Thank you.
Suspense
So, if you watch the Hallmark Channel, and I will not ask for a show of hands, you will notice that the budding romance in a story is not the only kind of relationship presented. There are also coworkers, neighbors, and best friends. This I agree with. We all need love in our lives, but I don't think romantic love is the only way we must, or perhaps even can, meet all of our needs for love. Rather, we all benefit from the gift of friends. While each of us carry our own unique stories of particular friends now or in the past, I suspect there are many common threads. We may have friends from school, from work, from a sports team, a choir, or perhaps from church. We may have a best friend or a friend group, new friends or longtime friends, friends we see a lot, and long ago friends with whom we have mostly lost touch. According to Facebook, everyone you connect to is a friend. But does this inclusiveness really capture what we mean by friend? For me, friendship conveys a reciprocity of care, respect, and connection. Friends are people for whom we care and who care about us. A friend is someone with whom you share mutual care and concern. It is listening to a friend complain about their bad day and then trusting that they'll be there to listen when you need to download about your own day. Or maybe you don't even need to talk about all that's going on. You can just show up for the meal or the practice, and the other can tell it's not a great day. But still you hang out, you spend time together, and simply be there for the other. And some friends may be the kind of person to whom you open your heart and mind, with whom you share your fears and hopes, longings and uncertainties. Such a friend can be, as the Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey suggests, quote, the one who sees the beauty, even in the brokenness, and reflects that to us like a mirror. Such a friend loves us even with our foibles, annoying habits, and inevitable imperfections. Such was the deep friendship chronicled by Gail Caldwell in her book, Let's Take the Long Way Home, a memoir of friendship. Describing the story of her friendship with Caroline, Gail writes, from the beginning, there was something intangible and even spooky that could make strangers mistake us as sisters or lovers, and that sometimes had friends refer to us by each other's names. Both writers, Caroline and Gail, connected over their shared experience of being dog owners. There's those dogs again. Their friendships developed over long walks with their dogs, rowing on the Charles River, swimming laps, as well as a long ongoing conversation. On this dual nature of a friendship of action and conversation, Gail writes, according to the old rule book, men had sports and women had talking. Caroline and I cultivated both, finding that logging long miles on river or land enhance the internal ground we covered. And yet, I find now that writing about a friendship that flourished within the realm of connection and routine has all the components of trying to capture air. The dailiness of our alliance was both muted and essential. We were the lattice that made room for the rose. End quote. Friendship, like love or beauty, is not a tangible object that we can point to, pick up, or physically reproduce. Rather, friendship is a quality of connection, a relational experience. And yet, friendship often benefits from material acts of nurture and engagement, like regular walks, frequent phone calls, or even infrequent but consistent emails, texts, or letters. Friendships may be grounded in a sense of connection or poignancy of a shared past experience, but friendships remain most vital when valued and nurtured with ongoing actions of care. Although Gail's book centers on her friendship with Caroline, she also presents an array of other relationships. Notably, both Caroline and Gail have fierce, meaningful relationships with their dogs, another example of interspecies love. Caroline also has a boyfriend, Morelli, as well as a twin sister, a therapist, and many other friends. And when Caroline dies a too early death, the packed chapel at Mount Auburn Cemetery reflects her many, many connections. While some of those people were certainly family, as well as her beloved boyfriend Morelli, so many of those gathered were connected to Caroline in various ways and in different levels of intimacy, including her dear, dear friend, Gail. Friendships are one of the many ways that we can connect to others, can find joy, can find support and care. Friendships can be a valuable part of the constellation of relationships that buoy us in good times and bad. Sometimes we're lucky when extraordinary friendship blossoms. Caroline and Gail had one such extraordinary friendship, grounded in shared interests and experiences, but also fostered by deliberate choices to call the other, to spend time together, to open up to one another. While we may not all have such a profound friendship like Gail and Caroline's, I do believe that friendships of many kinds can bring different gifts of care, connection, and even love into our lives. Acting legend Marlene Dietrich once said, "It's the friends you can call up at 4 a.m. that matter." While such trusted friends may be valuable indeed, I think friends and friendships of many kinds matter. So my hope for all of us is that we value the diverse friendships in our lives, from decade-old friends to casual friends to a new friendship begun today at coffee hour. And may we believe that love is much more than Hallmark would have us believe. There is not a card for everything. So may it be. Amen. And fortunately, our teal hymnal, this one, has a great friendship song in it, 1021, Lean on Me. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing.
We all have sorrow.
That battery has officially died. Please be seated. It was blinking red on me. I didn't know if I'd make it all the way through. So as we prepare to close this service of love, I know you've been wondering, why did Reverend Stephanie stick 3 sticky notes on the order of service and make everybody have a pencil? And hopefully everybody has 3 sticky notes and a pencil. If not, perhaps somebody could grab some extras out of the, does anybody need one? Okay. We have some more. We'll get you some. So, how many of us as children remember or help our kids, if you have kids, make Valentine's as the elementary school, right? Okay. We're all grown up, but we have memories, and I know we have urges to also still do Valentine's this time of year. So we're going to make a big group Valentine card. When you walked in, you might have noticed in the back of the sanctuary, there's a big card that says, Happy Valentine's Day to those we love from the First Church Boston community. So I invite you, with those 3 sticky notes, to write the name of a pet or an animal that you love. I know there's some bird watchers out there if you want to just say birds. An elder couple or an elder whose love you admire or whose love was important to you, and a friend. So a heart for an animal, an elder, and a friend. And I'll give you a couple minutes to write those out. So as you leave, I invite you to add your stickies to the big card. You won't be able to miss it, it's very big. And then I'll put that up in the Emerson Lounge if you want to take a look at it over the next week or so. And big thanks to Gigi and the choir they're going to help us with this, our closing song, Love One Another. It's around, and now I hand it over to the professionals.
Would you like to infiltrate? You're going to have some extra help. So no excuse for not singing your biggest and joyous. So the only thing you have to remember is, it's let us love, let us serve, let us honor. Let us one another. That's it. That's number, what is that, A or 1? Yes. So I'm going to give you a note. Here's your note. Let us love. That's no, first part. Ready? Let us love. Let us serve. Let us honor one another. Yes, oh, let us love. Let us serve. Let us teach you the next. I am no Jacob Collier, but I'm going to teach you the next one. Love one another, serve one another, what? Honor one another as equals hand in hand. Love one another, serve one another, honor one another. That's how we understand. Love one another, serve one another, honor one another as equals hand in hand. Love one another, serve one another, honor one another. That's how we understand. Let's put it all together. So the first people that are, let us love, and then they're going to sing, let us love. So you only have to remember, lettuce comes first. First eat your salad. 1, 2, 3. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. Let us love every hand. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. That's how we understand. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. As equals every hand. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. That's how we understand. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. As equals every hand. Let us love one another. Let us serve one another. Let us honor one another. That's how we understand. Now, you did great. That's the end of the hymn. But if you want to stay for the postlude, we're going to sing it in a fancier version, and your version is going to go right with ours. How does that sound?
I promised an interactive service, so here we go. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. The words are in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, those we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amidst a changing world of brokenness and beauty and love, may we hold fast to our faith in the abundance of love, the flourishing of life, and an ever more inclusive and just we. Amen. Join in the postlude.
Here we go, everybody. You got this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.